The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments of the supreme law of our government, but you might know it as the Constitution. It spells out each American citizen's rights in relation to our country. It lists many important rights like freedom of speech, press, religion, and many more.
But as the country moves forward, the Bill of Rights stays stagnant, and in more recent arguments, people have begged the question, is symbolic speech protected? And at what point does it cross over to hate speech?
I'm Joy Pierno.
And I'm Malia Jones.
And welcome to the classroom. When the Articles of Confederation didn't work, the U.S. needed a new plan, and that's how the Constitution comes into play. But for the Constitution to be approved by 9 out of the 13 states, they needed to do some convincing. A lot of the states were very firm in their stance that they would not sign on if there was no Bill of Rights, a document that would ensure the rights that the government could not take away, in fear that the federal government would have too much power. After a lot of redacting, we got the Bill of Rights as we know today. Our freedom is not absolute, though, and the government is the one who decides those limitations.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Symbolic speech consists of nonverbal, non-written forms of communication, such as flag burning and burning of draft cards. It is generally protected by the First Amendment unless it causes a specific direct threat to another individual or public order.
Tinker v. Des Moines is a historic Supreme Court ruling from 1969 that cemented students' rights to free speech in public schools. Mary Beth Tinker was a 13-year-old junior high school student in December 1965, where she and a group of students decided to wear black armbands to school to protest the war in Vietnam. Her, as well as the other students, were suspended as a result of this. They then filed a lawsuit under the First Amendment. The court then ruled 7-2 that students do not shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gate.
Another case is Barber v. Dearborn, which did not get looked at by SCOTUS, but is still worth noting. In 2003, Barber wore a shirt to school with the former President George W. Bush with the text "International Terrorist." He wore that shirt to express his feelings about Bush's foreign policies and on the war on Iraq. During lunch, he was told that he had to turn his shirt inside out or remove it because the assistant principal thought it was causing a disruption. He was eventually sent home and the case was taken to the federal government. It was ruled that students don't give up their right to expression once they enter school. They did note that schools are not free speech zones, but also took note of the fact that there was no evidence of his shirt causing any kind of disruption, and so there was no grounds to send him home other than the fact that he was displaying an unpopular political message.
The main question of these court cases stands in, is symbolic speech protected in schools? While the answer seems to be yes, there's a lot of gray area. In Barber v. Dearborn, they did note that if Barber was causing any sort of disruption, then he would have been accountable for the punishments that were sent his way. There's also no way to really monitor when it crosses over to hate speech, and that relies more on the school's policies.